All right. So beginner motorcycles, this is a big question that I get a lot on my channel. And then I seen a few since I helped moderate your channel. I saw a few of those, like, is the Scout like a good beginner motorcycle? And I keep hearing that from other people. And for me personally, I keep telling people, this is my idea of what a beginner motorcycle is that it's basically any motorcycle that you fit and are comfortable on. And I don't care too much about the CCs unless it's like a Hayabusa or some crap like that. But for me personally, I don't care too much about the CCs. I care more about the person, since that is the one thing you have control over. So the person, if they control the throttle and clutch and all that stuff, I don't really care about the CCs. Some people are saying 300, start on 300, go from there.
Yeah, I mean, if that's your reasoning behind it, if they're comfortable on it, they could literally, I mean, that means they could be comfortable on any bike. So
yeah,
and that's kind of difficult to pin down. It depends on what kind of bike. So like cruisers and V-twins and single cylinders and stuff like that. I mean, you could be on a higher displacement motorcycle and it'd still be a beginner bike.
Yeah.
But if you bought like a 600, like if you bought an R6,
yeah,
like that can kill you, really quickly.
So there's really a difference in the CCs don't really matter. It's more like the engine configuration then.
Yeah, so I mean your R6 or your like Ninja 600s and those those sport bikes, those are super sport bikes, and they still have 150 horsepower and they're 400 pounds. Like they're still wicked fast. So they're lightweight.
Okay.
Which is great for a beginner bike.
Yeah. Yeah,
and
definitely.
Displacement wise, they're small, but it'll flat out kill you because they're extremely fast. So you can't, you'd have to figure out what kind of bike you want.
Okay.
So if you're after sport bikes, like your goal is to be a sport bike rider, and that's what you want to like graduate to and buy like an R1 or a Hayabusa or something crazy, something fast. Even if you start out on an R6, it's enough to kill you really quickly.
Okay.
Well, that thing will stand up and do wheelies. So at that point, maybe you do like a Ninja 300, or you do like an FZ6 or something like that. Something that's not super sport, that has like a riser on the handlebars, but still have a 600 cc. So you still achieve kind of like a sporty look because you still have that sport bike look.
Yeah.
But you don't have, they're down tuned massively. So that, I think it's called an FC6, which is the Yamaha 600. It's not the same as an R6. Those are very different.
Yeah, I'm thinking like in generalities, like when people, because you're gonna get people asking you questions all the time. What's a good beginner bike? Or I want to get this bike. Is this a good beginner bike? And there's just so many different variables. Like I can't tell somebody get a Rebel 500 if they want to do sport bikes.
Right. Yeah, that's what I'm saying.
Yeah. So the hardest part for me is to explain, how can I explain it in one blanket term that this is what you need to do as a beginner. And I think it really all comes down to the actual rider itself. And you usually get these questions from people wanting to start off that have no experience in motorcycles. And the ones that do have experience, they always say, start off on a small bike, start off on a small CC bike. And with my experience, I'm telling people, get a bike that you like and you fit on, and then get the training. Because if you understand that if you pull the throttle too much on an R6, you're going to freaking kill yourself.
Yeah, stand up.
So, but that's not the R6's fault. That's the rider's fault.
Right.
So should we be accommodating riders that don't know how to ride? I mean, ones if they get like a freaking 125 and they're like, okay, this is what I was told by the online community. And now that I understand throttle control, because that's scary, throttle control, clutch control, all that stuff is a new skill to learn. It's scary. Now they have a 125 and they're like, man, this sucks. I hate it.
No, I agree with you. So like when people, like from dealership standpoint, when people come in and they're looking at, we don't sell them new, but used bikes are great to start out on as far as beginners go, because, there's so many bikes out there that you can find kind of what you're looking for, but financially they're generally less money than if you were to buy one brand new, right? So when you're looking at beginner motorcycles, you tend to look, is it budget friendly? You're not going to go out and spend $20,000-$30,000 on your first bike. Some people do. I mean, I think that's how Harley's made their living for years.
I bought a brand new Harley, first time rider, no endorsement. That was like 13 grand, and that was the cheapest I could get. It was a Sportster.
Well, yeah, but you could have bought an 883.
Yeah.
Because that was out.
Yeah.
And so you could have saved, $3 grand there. So I think that's a big thing to look at as far as, is it budget friendly? And then what they're after and what you're looking for. And yeah, you're right. Are they comfortable on it? Because on a Scout, a lot of people could be comfortable on a Scout. They can turn that bike into somebody that fits guys, my size, or a guy that's a foot taller.
Yeah, I was gonna say Nikki can flat foot. Nikki can flat foot that thing. She's 4'11", 5 foot, and it's comfortable for her as is. So I can't think of a 6 foot guy.
They'd be comfortable.
They'd be comfortable?
Yeah, so the cool thing about Scouts is that they have you have the ability to get an extended reach seat and move it back and make you fit comfortably on it. But the big thing goes back to how they're going to ride it. So if they've had the proper training and they're smart about it, because it's 100 horsepower on a 500-pound bike.
Yeah, and that's the thing is a Scout
is wicked fast.
Even a Scout 60 is freaking fast.
Right, but it's all relative to how open you turn the throttle. So if you're it'll only go as fast as you want it to go.
Yeah.
So if you really want it to go fast, you have that ability, but you don't have to make it go fast. The problem with that is on beginner riders, for the most part, they don't have that. They don't have that that thought process. Like they hit it and they go.
Yeah.
And it takes time to really, really, really figure out your throttle and throttle control and stuff like that. And the beginner safety courses, it's unfortunate that not everybody takes them.
Yeah.
And the guys that don't take them, they have issues on when they do that.
Yeah.
They punch it and it goes.
And that's one thing I like about Europe is that they have that A1, A2 license where I like America how you could pick whatever you want. I'm more of the freedom thing, but I like how you have to take certain classes to move up in CC range. Because you are focused on a 125 when you first start.
Yeah, but that doesn't sound budget friendly at all.
No, it doesn't.
Like you got to buy a 125.
Yep.
Then you get to buy a 250.
Yep.
And then like a 500
Yep.
or whatever. I think there's only 3 or 4. And then at some point you can buy whatever you want. But I mean, you've had to spend money on 3 different bikes before you get to the bike that you really, really want or you set out to get in the first place.
But that's also if they want to move up in different licenses. Ones if they're happy with the 125, they don't get the next license.
Then they stop.
Yeah.
And nobody's going to be happy here for a 125. So it's not something that.
Yeah, and that's another thing over there. You're a lot of city traffic and everything's condensed. So 125
you don't
is
need
perfect.
to go fast anyway. So your big bikes in Europe, I mean, anything bigger than like a 750 is probably huge.
Yeah, it's probably huge.
If it's a 600 cc, that's probably outside of the guys that have a bunch of money that buy Harleys and stuff like that. But.
So that's another thing is that it really depends on what you're going to use it for, because if you are a beginner rider, and there's a whole bunch of variables with beginner riders when it comes to me, but I mean, what are you going to use it for? So for one, does it fit you? Do you fit fine on it physically? And then what are you going to use it for? Are you going to go out of town? That's the question that you asked me, because when I started, I was like, what about an 883? You're like, well, let's go out of town. Let's go to San Diego and stuff. And then the 883, you could do it, but you and I are going to have more fun on the 1200. So that kind of convinced me to get it.
Yeah, honestly, the 1200 still sucks.
It does.
For going out of town anyway. So that was probably, I mean, honestly, we probably would have been better off on imports.
You should have got me a Victory or something.
Well, I mean, at the time, I didn't even know anything other than Harley when I started either. Like I knew Yamahas and stuff like that, but I wanted American made. And I mean, Victory was out at the time, but it wasn't something that we'd probably be happy with. But
no,
and they were big bikes.
Yeah, they're big bikes.
They didn't make a small one until 2017, and it was the Octane, and it was still fast as hell. That would have been a better bike for us to go out of town on because it had a 6-speed transmission.
Yeah.
So I mean, the big thing.
I remember pinging that.
You go 883 and you do a 1200 kit is probably better than just a 1200 kit.
I heard about that. Plus,
it's geared differently.
It's geared differently, and insurance is cheaper. I mean, there's just a bunch of
they don't know it's juiced up to a 1200. Yeah. So no, I think for us to go out of town, it was probably still a poor decision on our part to buy the bikes that we did because we could have.
Well, that's the thing is that we were both beginners. Like I was a beginner listening to another beginner.
Right.
And
the cool thing about the Sportsters were that there was so much room for customization, which we really liked about it. I mean, it had endless routes that we could take to turn our bikes into whatever we wanted to.
Yeah, I turned it into cafe. You had ape hangers, and then we both went cafe, and I went scrambler.
Yep.
Yeah,
that was neat.
Yeah, it was cool.
And there's no other bike out there still like that you could do that too. So that was the benefit of going the Harley route. So
yeah, but yeah, a lot of it for the beginner rider is like, what are you going to use it for? So with the Europe thing, a 125, 250 could be good. Even a scooter in some areas could be good because it's automatic and you're in town.
If you just want to commute back and forth to work, or whatever, that's plenty. That's fine. So
we're getting into,
and that's budget friendly.
Yep.
And it's small and it's light and anyone could ride it. I mean, at that point you could get a scooter. But,
doesn't like the Grom get like 100 something miles per gallon? I mean, it's a 125, and if you're just going from here to work 5 miles away,
if it's just in town, it'd be fine.
Yeah. So
it'd be scary on the highway.
Oh hell yeah! Supposedly you can go 60 miles up Mount Lemmon. Cop told me once. Yeah.
That cop's great.
Yeah, he's a good guy. So we're getting into all these different variables. So you have first of all, does it fit you? And then we're talking about different CC ranges. The R6 is different than like the Street 500.
Right.
And then we're going, what is it you want to use it for? So whenever I get these questions, is this a good beginner bike? I always ask that. What are you going to use it for? Mm-hmm. Do you have any training? So that goes into the CC thing. Mm-hmm. And then does it fit you? Go sit on a bike. And that's where I usually come in. And I think that's where a lot of people get different arguments is that, from their own personal experiences, well, I started on this bike and it was too much for me, or I started on this bike and it wasn't enough because like in 2 months I wanted to get like a 1000. I wanted to get a leader bike. And that's where this whole, I think the online community and anybody is mentioning. And from my point of view, I'm not the type of person who's like, hey, get a smaller bike and then graduate, because that's honestly a lot of money. Mm-hmm. I'm the type of person that says, get the bike that you want to get because you sat on it. It feels good to you, and get it for what you want to use it for. So if you're going to want to go out of town, you're going to need to get a bigger CC bike. And then since you're getting a bigger CC bike, get training. Yeah. Because at the end of the day, you could crash on a 125 and kill yourself.
Yeah. Totally.
But you can easy do it easier on a 1000.
Absolutely.
Yes, I agree with that. So training yourself.
No, I think training is the most important aspect of it anyway.
Yeah.
So, I mean, it doesn't matter if you're on a big bike or if you're on a small bike. I mean, if you don't know how to ride, I mean, it doesn't matter. You can kill yourself either way. So yeah, that's important. I mean, you have a hell of a lot less chance to kill yourself though.
Yes.
On something that doesn't have the power that, an R6 does or something like that. Cause you just make a mistake.
Yeah.
So,
and that's the hard thing is beginners make a lot of mistakes at the beginning.